should I own a hog?
Oh, I didn't realize we were talking about the motorcycles going all around the neighborhood.
What do you think that would pull me out of my funk if I owned a hog?
I have to assume yes. How could it not?
It could be part of my plan to be, do you think I'd be happier if I were a himbo? Because I think I would be happier. Would you like me more? Usually I cut pauses, but I might leave that long pause in. I would like me more if I were a himbo.
I don't think I could like you more.
Wow. To be a himbo, I have to get dumber and hotter. Or unfortunately, maybe just hotter. But it seems like there's a lot of virtue in that lifestyle and worldview.
Is it a lifestyle and worldview?
I think so.
Wow.
Well, it's not a worldview for the himbos. It's a worldview for the people who like to have sex with himbos.
It's city business. It's city business.
So, let's see. We're recording on a non-traditional day. We might be in the worst combined moods of any time that we've recorded anything.
I mean, the last one I think was pretty clearly bad because of the amount of stress we were feeling.
I cut around the badness, I think,
wow.
successfully in that one. I think that any listener would not know the misery that was unfolding. But our baseline misery now might be higher.
Well, it's probably going to just keep getting worse for a while, I guess.
Usually, you're the one who has to tell me to not talk about that.
Yeah.
Alison, what is in the garden?
Then let us cultivate our garden. It's the only way to make life endurable.
Okay. I pulled out the okra. The reality is that we were very bad at knowing what to do with it because we would have like 1 or 2 fruits a day, and it's hard to do anything with that because it doesn't keep well in the refrigerator, or at least it wasn't keeping well in the vegetable drawer for me. I guess I didn't check whether it's the sort of thing you're actually supposed to store at room temperature. Now that I think about it, maybe I was hasty to pull them out.
Well, you also wanted to make room for
I transplanted some tomatoes into those spots.
We've eaten the first several, I can count them on one hand, cherry tomatoes that have grown. They tasted like cherry tomatoes. No one ever has like a apotheosis experience when they're eating cherry tomatoes, I don't think.
There are some very good ones, but this little pot that this tomato plant has been growing in is not providing its needs. It's not providing for what the plant needs to make a good tomato in the first place. Something has to happen.
When people feel like romance about the idea of eating tomatoes, they're not picturing cherry tomatoes, though. Like the experience of taking a bite out of a tomato and it dribbling juice down your chin obscenely, you are imagining a big old tomato.
Yeah, I guess. But in terms of flavor, I think the smaller tomatoes are
as good as anything,
if not better.
They might have insufficient gel, though.
Well,
can't get the right gel balance. Okay, so pulled the okra up, have replanted some tomatoes. How are our greens? Are they still fucked?
Pretty bad. I did water everything really deeply over the weekend, so I hope that brings some things back to life. Probably I should keep doing that a few times a week.
Keep watering our garden.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing is, you were lulled into complacency by your experience in Stardew Valley, where you had an irrigation system. So now the very idea of watering our garden seems undignified to you.
Well, I think the thing is, it rains most days, and it seemed like that would be enough, because actually one problem the garden has is also that it's overly soggy sometimes. So sometimes some of the greens actually, I believe, got killed in a way I've never seen arugula get killed, which is by drowning. As far as I can tell, that's
we've
what happened.
Innovated a new way.
Like it became translucent and mushy the way greens left in the refrigerator too long will do, but it did that while it was still in the ground because of the amount of water.
Yeah, not only the amount of water, it's really impossible, I think. And we are people who lived in, North Carolina, which does not have a temperate summer or a dry one. We lived there for many years. But I don't think it's possible to explain to someone who hasn't lived in Florida the amount of humid that it can be here, that water is just saturating everything.
Yeah, it's completely humid.
As humid as it can be, according to the laws of physics, I guess. Any other garden matters?
Now I wonder what I don't know about storing okra so that I could have accumulated enough to actually make something with it before it went bad.
Well, I don't know if we've talked about this on air, but in 3 weeks, we're having a chest freezer delivered.
That's
which is
true.
very exciting. I mean, it's coming 3 weeks from now, and we ordered it several weeks ago because of the, basically all chest freezers are, back ordered. And this is one of the only ones that didn't say it would take until, the beginning of September to arrive. So we've always wanted one, but also with hurricane risk and also not wanting to go to the grocery store as often, it seems reasonable. But what vegetables can you freeze and which can you not?
I mean, you can freeze a lot of them.
Like classically peas you freeze, but I feel like it has to have this sort of shell or membrane that a freeze and a thaw won't make soggy.
So I think that green beans are better off frozen than canned.
Yeah, for sure. But they have the same sort of sturdy shell that a pea does.
Corn. My family always froze a lot of corn.
Yeah, same thing with corn. I mean, no greens could you freeze and thaw again.
If you're planning on eating them cooked, I think you could.
That's
actually.
true.
If you were going to throw it in a soup, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how in our childhood most people bought spinach.
Yeah.
Is in that frozen cardboard rectangle.
Oh yeah, I forgot it came in a block.
Yeah, I always thought it really sucked shit when I was a kid. I mean, that was the only way that we ate it. And then I think, now that I know my family occasionally listens to this, it's harder to say these things, but I think we just boiled it. So you know how we feel about that as a cooking method for...
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal, but it was cooked with love. That's for sure.
I think you could probably freeze asparagus, though I've never actually tried it.
I think you could freeze asparagus, but my childhood memory of asparagus is not a positive one, and I think that might be as a result of
being frozen.
Of it being frozen, yeah.
You could definitely pre-chop vegetables for soup, like carrots and celery, and freeze those.
I mean, we have done that. I think it's a great thing to do, actually.
Maybe I should have waited until we got the freezer and frozen some okra and gradually accumulated enough to cook something.
I mean, I think okra could go in a soup base if chopped finely, probably.
Oh, yeah. I mean, throwing it in a soup for sure. I was really wanting to dry fry it, which is, there just wasn't.
I don't know what that method involves.
It's just this Indian recipe I have that involves a bunch of spices, and we kind of did it once. A bunch of spices. And
okay, that's when you put some spices in the bottom of a pan with either not very much or no oil. Is that right?
Right.
And then you
toast the spices.
You toast the spices, right? Yeah, I mean that always produces a great result. I think we've done it with green beans.
Right, that's what we ended up doing because there wasn't enough okra to do it.
Yeah, that stuff's always delicious. Well, we mentioned on the podcast about the guy that came around with his riding mower, mowed up all of our plants and stuff. But it's time for me as the himbo of the household to mow the lawn. One of our, tri-yearly lawn mowings.
Could you try this time not
Oh no, here it comes.
not to mow over the garden hose? Would you consider
So that was
attempting
done
that?
by me years ago, not by the riding lawnmower man recently, to be clear.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm ashamed of it, but to be honest, it's not even on my top 30 list of shames. And that's not because I'm not ashamed of it. It's because I've done so many other I've made so many other shameful errors. Yeah, I mean, I'll put in the effort. Should we water our lawn so that the grass grows faster and I have to mow it more frequently than 3 times a year?
I don't think that's what I want to do.
I'll tell this story briefly on air because there's literally zero chance anyone ever in my workplace would listen to this. But there's a lawyer that I work with who mentioned that they had a well installed on their property recently. And I was thinking, oh man, that's a great idea because, as we are in one way or another entering an apocalyptic scenario, it would be great to have access to your own water. But then I learned that they had only installed it because they had been spending $700 a month watering their lawn. And this well was installed just to provide water to their green grass.
Well, when I was looking for houses for us to move into, when I found this house in this very neighborhood, a real estate agent who is not the one we ended up renting a house from very proudly told me that he likes to drive around the neighborhood looking for people who are in violation of the lawn length requirements and turning them into the city.
There's some sort of municipal ordinance about lawn length?
Yeah.
Do you think if we let it grow too long, we'd get a sign posted on our lawn that says moral nuisance? What was it? We got this sign posted on our lawn in Durham.
I don't think it said moral nuisance.
It was something like that.
I mean, that was the gist of it.
It was the gist of it. We still have the sign, so I can check at some point.
It might have said nuisance, but it definitely...
Public nuisance.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But then when you read the small print on it, there's some language of morality.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, if I don't mow the lawn this weekend, I'll be in moral transgression against the values of our community.
To be fair, there are a lot of snakes and stuff in Florida. I'd prefer not to have foot-tall grass in the yard.
Yeah, I guess I fear that.
I don't want to step on a snake or anything.
Well, I'll be the one to do it. I'll take one for the team. Okay, so the catalog we chose for today is one that I mentioned during the last episode. It's called Truelove Seeds. It's also from Philadelphia, like Landreth's, the oldest seed company in the country. And that's how I actually came across it. It's probably the most unusual offering that we have had so far, and in some ways the most modern, even more maybe modern than Fedco. It's only, I think they were founded in 2017. I wish there were a first page of the catalog that I could read to you, but they don't have a catalog. In fact, in the FAQ on their website, there's a question, do you have a print catalog? And they say, we have not yet made the large financial investment in printing catalogs. We only have our online catalog for now, which is this website, but hope in the near future to at least make a PDF catalog available. So we're not even really looking at a PDF, we're looking at their website, which is lovely. I would love to give you the elevator pitch for their company, but they don't really even have that on the website. I had to sort of root around and find some articles that have been written about them to get sort of a brief synopsis of what they're about. I'm going to read just a paragraph or two from an article that was written about them in Grid Philly magazine, it looks like. Maybe it's just called Grid, but it's out of Philadelphia. Behind the curtains in a small room at Bartram's Gardens Conservatory are jars and jars of seeds. Owen Taylor of Truelove Seeds is storing them for winter. They just happen to be on the grounds of the oldest surviving botanical garden in the country, where several hundred years ago, botanist John Bartram once manifested his own devotion to the biodiversity and cultural preservation of plants. Taylor continues this tradition today. Every seed has a story, he explains. The history of the seed ties in with your own personal history. You're able to talk about the movement of people and to hold on to this sense of home in a new land. I'm going to skip a little bit. Their seed stories are what define the operation at Truelove, a profit-sharing company that grows, preserves, and sells rare and culturally significant seeds. The seeds are grown and sown by about 25 different small-scale farms around the country that are committed to sustainable growing practices, and half the profit from seed packet sales go back to the farmers who grew them, which is what makes the venture sort of unique. So their website is oriented is they prominently display the many small organic farms that I think, like they said, there are 25 of them or so that they work closely with. Most are urban farms, most in the Philadelphia area, some around the country. These are partners to them. And one of their obvious values is encouraging their partners at these farms and also their own staff to cultivate seeds and seed collections that reflect their own personal identities or cultural heritages in some way. They prominently list a number of collections that I think they use the word curate even. There's an African diaspora collection, a Ark of Taste collection, an Italian collection, a Philadelphia collection, a Roughwood seed collection, and a Syrian collection. Which is one of their ways of organizing what they sell. Do you have thoughts on the layout or organization of their website?
I guess I don't know. If you go to the default sorting is best selling, but you can actually sort by featured, best selling, alphabetically A to Z or Z to A, price low to high or high to low, date, new to old or old to new. So you actually have a lot of ways to sort the catalog once you're onto the website, which I think is good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess if you're obviously you can't do that with a physical catalog or a PDF catalog. I don't think we'll ever move to a future probably where there won't be print catalogs produced because they're such a beautiful novelty item at this point. But I mean, it is useful to be able to organize what you're looking for in a number of ways.
Yeah. I did want to draw attention to one continuity between last week's episode and this seller, which is that they offer Chalk's early jewel tomato seeds.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was going to just read their description of that particular seed. Nice small tomato with uniform redness and roundness. These round red jewels ripen slightly on the early side and produce well in clusters of 3 to 5. James Chalk of Norristown, Pennsylvania, developed this variety in 1899. According to William Moyes Weaver, from whom we got our original seed, Chalk crossed Hubbard's curled leaf and perfection to create this variety. It was released by Moore and Simon of Philadelphia in 1900 and W. Atlee Burpee in 1904. It is now listed in the Slow Food Ark of Taste as an endangered and culturally important heirloom. They have detailed instructions on how to collect the seeds so that you can propagate them and do your own seed saving.
Yeah, they're one of those companies that I think we've encountered a few of them that are evangelists for seed saving and want to instruct you in how to do it. It makes sense they would have Chalk's early jewel as a Philadelphia. I mean, they have a Philadelphia collection too. It's part of the heritage of their area, I guess, much like Landreth's. By the way, there's a purring cat on audio. I think we can all agree that you can never move a cat if a cat is happy. So I hope that sound is a soothing one.
Yeah, it seems like she's going to just be purring.
Yeah, whatever. Dock our salary. Despite the numerous ways to sort on this website, we thought we'd just read, instead of concentrating on a category or a collection or something, just some descriptions that sounded good. Fancy that. Do you have any that look good to you?
Well, I was going to start with the white garden eggplant. And these are eggplants that are very true to their name. They're small and white and oblong. This African variety has a delicious and slightly bitter flavor. There are many varieties of garden egg, but this white variety is most popular among West African and Southeast Asian families. The fruit are versatile and can be eaten raw, boiled, sautéed, or in soups. They are slightly later to produce and taller than other eggplant, but very productive once they get going. Many traditional African recipes can be found online, but they also are excellent simply grilled or sautéed with other veggies. The rich flavor lends itself well to spicy dishes. Young leaves are cooked down into stews. The seeds for this variety originate from Yao, an immigrant from Togo, and ethnic crop specialist in Maryland. The seeds were sourced from relatives in Africa and have been grown out from years on a research farm. This variety, also known as scarlet eggplant, or gilo, is very sought after in the West African communities, especially those from Ghana, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. In Ghana, they are one of the 3 most important vegetables, along with tomatoes and peppers. They are valued for their rich and slightly bitter flavor, thin skin, and taste in numerous African stews. These are also popular with Burmese and Nepali refugee families. The white, unripe fruit can be eaten raw, boiled whole, and eaten with chili paste or most commonly cooked in stews. The leaves are also eaten and are rich in iron, vitamin C, calcium, and riboflavin. In one recipe, they are sautéed with onion, garlic, anise, mushrooms, hot pepper, parsley, and nutmeg, then served as a side dish over rice, couscous, boiled yucca, or yams.
I really like this description. Like, there's nothing too flowery about the language, but if every description had, here's what it tastes like, here's the cultural context, here is the manner in which they are often cooked within that cultural context, and here is how to grow it, then that seems like it covers all the bases, basically. We actually didn't get there. These are long descriptions. Even beyond that, on this page, there are planting, harvesting notes, directions, and also seed keeping notes. I think every description has that, which is very neat. That's fairly unique in what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, these are thorough. We often encounter descriptions that have some of these.
Do you want to read, and I don't think we need to do this for all of them, but because this is fairly unique, do you want to give a reading of the seed keeping notes for this one? Like if you wanted to seed keep.
Sure. Eggplants are generally self-pollinating, though we isolate different varieties of the same species by 50 feet in hopes that flying insects will not cross-pollinate them unexpectedly. Eggplant seeds are ripe when the fruits get far past their edible stage and have turned another color, in this case orange. Cut the fruit, scrape out seeds, perhaps through a heavy-duty screen, into a vessel. Add a little water, 1 to 2 inches is probably plenty, to your seeds and pulp to keep them from drying out, and allow them to ferment away from direct sunlight. Fermentation is not necessary with eggplants, but it makes seed cleaning a bit easier. Ideally, you will stir the concoction every day for 3 to 5 days. In the end, add more water to fill the vessel, stir one final time, and allow to settle. Pour off the floating material and then strain the seeds through a strainer. Sometimes you will need to add more water and pour off the floating material several times until the water is clear and you can see the seeds sunken at the bottom. Squeeze dry the drained seeds in a towel and then lay out to dry on a labeled screen or paper product in a ventilated place away from direct sunlight for a week or two.
How different do you think seed keeping strategies are for, do you think they need 350 words that are unique with every seed as to how to successfully keep and store it? Or are most of the directions something that you could apply to any seed you were trying to keep?
I think they follow a template. So, for example, their tomato template, or one example of a tomato seed keeping note, starts very similar, but it lets you know that tomato seeds are ripe when the fruits are ready to eat. So you can harvest them from edible fruit that you're harvesting anyway.
Yeah, certainly the starting point would be very important for all of these.
But the description of fermenting the seeds, which is sort of a tomato thing, is the same.
Sure. Well, these white garden eggplants that we read, white garden eggplants, here's what they remind me of. The incandescent bulbs that our grandparents had on Christmas trees when we were kids, where they would scald you if you touched them. And I feel like set a fire in my grandparents' tree at one point. They look like those. They look beautiful. They're shaped like those, and they remind me of them, like they could be strung on a tree in that way.
Yeah, I can see that.
What am I looking at in the fourth picture on that page where suddenly they're all red?
I assume that's the stage where you harvest the seeds. They said they turn orange when they're ready for seed harvesting.
Okay. So they can be eaten as the vegetable when they are white, but you want to let them become this deep orange red before you take their seeds.
That's what it said.
I have one I'd like to read.
Great.
And it's an old favorite of ours, which is the Paul Robeson tomato. I'm always interested in reading new descriptions of the Paul Robeson tomato because of the varying degrees in which they emphasize his activism. He's a good commie. Here's how this one reads. Also, they look beautiful. I'd love to eat one of these. This dusky red, juicy heirloom is sweet and earthy, dense and smoky, tangy and rich, full of flavor. 7 to 10 ounce fruits grow on an indeterminate vine. This Russian variety was introduced by Marina Danilenko, a seed seller from Moscow, and was named in honor of Paul Robeson. Robeson was an African-American actor, athlete, singer, linguist, and an outspoken crusader for racial equality and social justice for African Americans and all colonized peoples. He spent his final years in our very own West Philadelphia.
Yeah, I wonder if that is how that compares to this description on Seed Savers Exchange or something for the same tomato.
Well, we could pull it up. I feel like this is, we looked at these Robeson descriptions in one of our first episodes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it looks like, I was just looking back, that it was in fact in episode 4 where we discussed the Paul Robeson tomato. And because those were in the early years, I think that was 2018. For anyone who's listening now, who was not listening then, there's a description that was posted on Dave's Garden that I love so much that I encountered on Twitter years ago of this tomato. And I'm going to read it again. Are you ready for this, Allison?
Go right ahead.
It is one thing to say that you love a tomato, and another thing to admit that a Paul Robeson tomato has transcended the definition of what is essential in life. The real man was like that too, larger than life. Paul Robeson couldn't have a better testimonial to who he was than this particular variety. There's literally a cult following going on here. Those of you who don't have the room to grow tomatoes know the feeling of having spent money wisely on one of these gorgeous fruits. Look at the color. It is profound. Juliet may be the tomato to take to a desert island, but Paul Robeson is the one to take with you to heaven.
Yeah, it's so good.
It will go down as the greatest description I've ever read. I truly mean that. It's one thing to say you love a tomato and another thing to admit, not even to assert, but to acknowledge, as anyone would, that the Paul Robeson tomato has transcended the definition of what is essential in life.
Wow, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to revisit my position on just not even growing full-sized tomatoes.
In favor of the growing a Paul Robeson
We've
tomato.
got to, right?
Yeah, I really think we should. Look at the color. It is profound. It's also a great sentence.
Yeah, that's...
Damn, I love it so
good.
much. I'll repost this in the episode notes.
Can we source additional seed descriptions from this same source?
Oof, boy, I don't know where it came from. That's the thing. I know it was posted on Dave's Garden. Here, as I discussed this in episode 4, but how I came across this was it was posted on Twitter, and I contacted the guy who posted on Twitter, and he was like, oh, I was at a farmer's market in Connecticut, and there was like a printed out sheet with this description on it, and I took a photograph of that sheet and posted it on Twitter.
Have you Googled?
And then he put it on Dave's Garden, I guess, or whatever.
Have you Googled any of the text to see if it comes up somewhere?
No, I should. I mean, there's frankly a lot of unique text strings in this. I'm just going to Google Paul Robeson tomato has transcended, which seems like it should. No results found for that.
If we could identify the anonymous author.
Please, dear listener, I would love to we've talked about having, guests on the podcast to chat with us. And we have a couple of folks in mind, but if we could have the author of this description on this podcast, it would really mean everything to me.
Well, at that point, we should probably just give them the podcast.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I agree. So anyway, if anyone could figure that out, that would really delight us. Anyway, back to the Paul Robeson description in Truelove Seeds. Yeah, I would say that the seed keeping notes for this follow the same sort of formula as the eggplant one did, but maybe that's because they're both nightshades or something.
I'd like to read this description of the Georgia rattlesnake watermelon.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's great.
These great tasting, snake-striped heirloom watermelons from the 19th century grow to about 35 pounds or even larger. Their solid rinds help them travel and store well. Our friend Chelsea Askew grew these melons in her corn patch and saved their seeds on the first snow. She made watermelon wine from all the extra sweet red flesh she couldn't eat fresh. The following historical records of this watermelon were researched and compiled by David Shields, who is known throughout the American South as the Flavor Saver. He is chairman of the board of the Carolina Gold Rice Foundation, holds the Carolina Distinguished Professorship at the University of South Carolina, and chairs Slow Food's Arc of Taste Committee for the American South. Rattlesnake watermelon, a variety developed in Richmond County, Georgia, commercially introduced during the Civil War out of the Lawson watermelon, probably pollinated by the Carolina long. The first to offer seed for sale were Plum and Lightner, Augusta, Georgia. The first published characteristic description by pomologist P.J. Berkmans in 1866, and its reputation as a market melon made by the inaugural shipment northward of truck-farmed melons in 1867 from Augusta. Quote, "The well-known striped and speckled melon of Augusta is known as the rattlesnake and has been found to be the most productive of all the varieties grown. This particular seed is cultivated almost entirely to the exclusion of other varieties, although in a day's travel some 5 or 6 other kinds are to be met with. But the rattlesnake is the universal favorite." This is from Watermelons, where thousands upon thousands of Georgia watermelons grow. The Providence Evening Press, August 3, 1867. Another quote. There are a great many varieties of melons raised in Georgia. I hear a great deal in particular of 2 new species or varieties, one of which is known as the Price melon. I have never seen, but it is highly spoken of by those who are familiar with it. The old rattlesnake watermelon is grown with us quite extensively. I will say that it is a very fine melon. It is tolerably prolific, fairly so, an early ripener, a good eating melon, and one of the best melons to pack in a car to ship. Colonel Reuben Jones on Watermelons, Southern Cultivator, January 1890.
Wow. Tolerably prolific, fairly so. Don't oversell it or anything.
I've got a couple more quotes in this long historical
Yeah, that's great.
chronicle, I guess.
If you look up, by the way, in the pictures, I can't tell which of these it's from, but they have one of those looks like late 19th century descriptions. They have a picture of it.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
But go on.
Augusta's district has given to the United States some very fine melons. I might say the best in the lot. There is the rattlesnake, whose shipment north in '67 so whetted the appetites of our northern brothers that a great industry in melons has been built up. And I must add that rattlesnake seed ought to come from our sister, Columbia County. Blue Gem, Sugarloaf, Bradford, and the improved Augusta Round White. The last is the best of all, early home market melons. NLW, the Augusta Territory for Watermelon Growing. Augusta Chronicle, January 3, 1898. And finally, rattlesnake. Large to very large, long. Large to very large, long, with alternate green and white stripes of equal width and dark green spots. Flesh red, crisp, sweet, and much water, very good. Rind thick, seeds white with black edge, and 2 very small black specks at the base. This variety grows to a very large size, but bears sparingly. P.J. Berkman's Notes on Melons, Fruitland, April 3rd, 1866, Southern Cultivator.
They could use a copy editor on this site.
Yeah, for sure. But they all could, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say one thing I truly hate about this website is that they keep advertising Landis winter lettuce to me. And the picture for Landis winter lettuce is a picture that someone who is an unshod person, I assume a habitually unshod person, took by simply pointing their camera down, and it displays their bare feet in the lettuce patch. And I have to tell you, it does not make me want to grow that lettuce.
Yeah, some of these pictures are standard. Some are beautiful, and some are, I guess, I'll generously characterize as whimsical. Have you seen the one for the winter spinach, the, I guess, Winterspinat Haldenstein?
The guy who's holding it up like it's
elephant
giant
ears or something? Yeah. Putting lettuce in your ears makes it more appealing as food, I think. I will say, I mean, because of their sort of mission to link the seeds they sell with, with culture, there are really a lot of interesting seed options here that I've not seen elsewhere. They offer ashwagandha seeds. I used that to try to stop being depressed at one point. That is at home and strictly medicinal, certainly. They've got broccoli rabe, which I miss from my time in Philadelphia. That's what you put on a hot roast pork sandwich. Don't that sounds appetizing to you.
Well, I was patronizing you.
Okay. I mean, we're both vegetarians at this point. I don't want to eat a pile of hot roast pork any more than you do right now, but sauteed broccoli rabe is really good. I was going to read the spotted Aleppo lettuce because I the picture was just striking to me. And there are a couple of lettuces on this site that have this feature, but I don't know. I'm so used to when I buy lettuce from a store in this country, any brown spot on it would be a real obvious deficiency that you would be wanting to avoid here. Like basically the way that I know if lettuce is good or bad is if it has weird spots on it or not.
Oh, but these are red spots.
Well, what I was going to say is that in a case like this, it is a spotted lettuce. I don't think I've ever had a spotted lettuce.
Sure you have. I've grown it and we've eaten it.
All right. How
An
many?
extremely similar lettuce to this one, actually. A romaine that was green with red spots.
How many years ago was it?
1.
Oh no, am I forgetting things that happened 1 year ago now?
Well, maybe you've forgotten what our lettuce looked like 1 year ago. That doesn't seem like the most
Well, I
important.
thought I had about 5 good memory years these days, but I guess maybe it's worse than that. Anyway, I'll read the description. This speckled heirloom romaine lettuce from Syria was introduced to England in the late 1600s and to America by the late 1700s. It was offered by Philadelphia-based Bernard McMahon in the first known seed catalog in America in 1804. His very first catalog came out 2 years earlier. I guess we can take from that Landreth's existed before that, but did not publish a seed catalog until after that. Everything happened in Philadelphia, though, didn't it? This long leaf variety is 8 to 10 inches tall and can be eaten young or mature. Similar to Landis winter lettuce, which we now know is unappealing because of its proximity to feet, we sow this variety in late fall and harvest in late winter and early spring. You can also plant in the early spring and early fall for cool season harvests. Lettuce originates in the Middle East and is often a central ingredient in Syria's famous fattoush, bread salad, and sometimes in the Levantine tabbouleh. Some say romaine lettuces are also called kos, because lettuce is known as kos in Arabic. First cultivated as early as 2680 BC, lettuce was used by Egyptians to create oil from its seeds and later was selected for its edible leaves, likely also by Egyptians. Boy, it's amazing that we can say anything that definitively happened by 2680 BC.
Yeah.
All right, well, I want to read one more thing, and it's another one of the major categories on their site. So they have vegetable, herb, flower seeds, but then they have a whole tab devoted to dahlia tubers. So I thought I'd read one of those descriptions. As a general category, they write, native to Mexico, Aztecs bred dahlias for their edible tubers. At Truelove Seeds, we grow them primarily as cut flowers for our florist friends, although we conduct regular taste tests to find better tasting specimens. All of our dahlia tubers are grown at our farm in southeastern Pennsylvania, and our tubers are inspected by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, and we ship our certificate with each order to all 50 states. And I thought I'd read you just some of the names of these dahlia tubers, which are funny and charming. There's the Big Bird dahlia tuber.
Nice.
I feel like I should do a game for you where you guess what these look like, but...
Well, we could.
All right.
On the spot game. Well, that one obviously is big and yellow. And
Hell yeah, it is. All right, good. This is a on the spot. What the fuck is that?
What the fuck is that?
What about the Blizzard dahlia tuber?
Well, I assume that one is white. And I did want to say about the Big Bird one that I imagine it having more rows of overlapping petals or something. So it's got a big birdy, feathery look.
I'll give that to you in the grand scheme of these that I'm looking at here.
On the scale of sort of flat and smooth to very
absolutely
overlapping.
Like it looks a surprising amount like Big Bird's feathers. I'll show it to you after.
Blizzard, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to say white and on the smooth side.
Yes. Yes on both counts. Well, wait, are you good at these games? All right, how about this? This isn't as vivid. I mean, it's evocative, but not literal. The bodacious dahlia tuber.
I think it's fuchsia. And particularly large flowers, maybe?
So it's not fuchsia.
I was debating between fuchsia and an orange red.
It is an orange red,
Okay.
in fact. It's an orange red. It looks like a firework explosion, is how I would describe it. It's a real, like, sunburst, but it is in fact an orange red. How about the Giggles dahlia tuber?
Giggles, I bet, is another yellow one.
It has a yellow internal portion, but I have a way that I would describe this if I were seeing it and knew that this were its name.
Huh. You think...
What other thing could be named Giggles? If someone said, I'm going to introduce you to Giggles, what would you assume Giggles was?
Like a clown?
A clown. Yeah, that's right. This looks like the flower that a clown would squirt water out of, like a lapel flower.
So that's classically a daisy. So is this
It is daisy-like, yeah.
Okay, so it's like a yellow center with white petals?
It's a yellow center. The petals are reddish, but I feel like the structure of it looks like one. How about Mom's Special dahlia tuber?
I bet that one is a medium pink instead of a bright pink.
It does have a medium pink component. So it's white speckled with medium pink.
White speckled with pink. Okay.
Yeah. How about, I don't know what to take from this. Otto's Thrill.
Whoa.
Otto's Thrill dahlia tuber. There's no way you get this because I don't know what the hell it's going for.
Otto's Thrill. Okay. I'm going to guess maroon just because I haven't said that one is dark red yet.
It is in fact a light pink.
Does it give any information about why it would be called Otto's Thrill
Sure
when you
doesn't.
click on the description?
I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that their friend Otto likes it a lot.
Sure, that's fine. But they told us that whole story about how their friend made watermelon wine or whatever.
All right, I'll give you two more. And they're a pair in my mind because they look like two sea creatures, which may be near and dear to your heart. There's the Show and Tell dahlia tuber.
Show and Tell, and it looks like a sea creature.
And I will say it is the most different looking of any of these.
Okay, so it has an unusual petal arrangement. It doesn't look like an
unusual petal form.
Okay.
Here's the game: is guess what sea creature it looks like.
Well, I guess like a sea anemone or something would be the obvious.
That's exactly right. It looks just like a sea anemone. It's the one on the... Hold on.
Yeah, okay. I see that. And it is a salmon pink.
It is a salmon pink. And then finally, the Truelove Sunset dahlia tuber.
Wow, but you said that one also looks like a sea creature, even though it thinks it looks like a sunset.
Well, I guess it looks like a sunset. I thought it looked a little like a starfish, but maybe a sunset is better, hence the name.
So does that mean it has yellow and red stripes on its petals?
It does.
Okay.
But I realized it has more legs than you would expect out of a starfish, so maybe it's not.
Oh, I see. It does have relatively few petals, though.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of space. All right, well, great. I've learned the following. You are good at making games, and you're extremely good at playing them, and I'm worse at both of those.
I don't think that guessing that something named Big Bird is big and yellow is quite the same challenge as some of the games I've given you.
Oh, maybe. All right, well, let's end with... I just wanted to call back to see what's up with murder hornets these days. And the most recent article I can find on them is from yesterday on TMZ.
Wow.
TMZ has been following the murder hornet story.
The celebrity known as Murder Hornets.
That's right. And the headline here is, this is a person, I don't know who the hell it is, but Animal Planet's Forrest Galante says, biologists hunting murder hornets. The time to pounce is now. And the article reads, not only is the coronavirus still here, but guess what? Ditto for murder hornets. And Animal Planet's Forrest Galante says the clock's ticking to eradicate them before it's too late. The Animal Planet star tells TMZ, murder hornets are such a threat to the environment, biologists are literally hunting them down. It's no joke. Biologists may as well be called the Ghostbusters, because Forrest says they're hunting the hornets with sniffing dogs, heat-sensing technology, and all kinds of tools to track their whereabouts.
So, I'm sorry, the way this is celebrity news is that some guy who's on Animal Planet is enough of a celebrity for some random things that he has said to be reported in TMZ.
Right, so he's credible when he says that hunting dogs are currently...
I mean, that probably is true.
Anyway, the article ends with a video of a murder hornet killing a mouse. Quote, within seconds of striking it. So that's where we stand.
Can we get other news filtered through the lens of extremely minor celebrities?
I mean, I guess now that Steve Irwin is dead, there are only so many credible celebrity sources for information about dangerous animals. Anyway, eat your vegetables while you still can.
We're all just trying the best we can.
Well, speak for yourself.
It's seedy business. It's seedy business. Boring talk about seeds, seedy talk between boys. Mind-numbing chatter about ovals and spores. We'll dig a ditch and we'll moan and split the difference. It's seedy business.